Now imagine this. You are a parent with a child in a private Christian pre-K through 8th grade school. And just weeks before a new school year is set to begin, you are informed that your child will no longer be able to benefit from a state voucher program that helps pay tuition for economically disadvantaged families like yours. What are you going to do? Send your child to the failing local school down the street? Well, that was the dilemma faced by several Baltimore area families when the state of Maryland yanked eligibility for a voucher program from Bethel Christian Academy just weeks before the 2018 school year. Joining me now to highlight this case and some good news about it is Alliance Defending Freedom legal counsel Paul Schmitt. And Paul has been the main attorney handling this case. Paul, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. Tell us about the case, how it came to be.
Well, as you said, Maryland has this scholarship program, and the program is called Boost. And Boost is really designed to help low-income families or families from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. And for 2 years, when Governor Hogan and the General Assembly founded the program, until about 2018, Bethel Christian Academy, which is in Savage, Maryland, participated in this program without any issue. And then something really unfortunate happened. A political activist who was opposed to the creation of the Boost program complained to the state about the religious beliefs of a different Christian school. And so the state launched what effectively was an inquisition and started reviewing all the internal documents and handbooks of all the participating schools. And any school that had religious views that the state didn't like, specifically about marriage and human sexuality, all those schools got questioned by state attorneys. And then ultimately some schools like Bethel got kicked out of the program because they refused to change the language in their handbook to a message that the government approved of.
Did this state, as you call it, inquisition, did it eliminate all religious schools or just religious schools with particular religious beliefs that they didn't like?
Yeah, it's funny. It only eliminated religious schools that expressed their biblical beliefs about marriage and human sexuality. Other religious schools were allowed to participate in the program. Effectively, what the government was saying was, you can have your religious beliefs, but you just can't express them.
Well, this actually sounds very familiar to some oral arguments we heard at the Supreme Court last week in the Carson v. Mencken case out of Maine. Are these similar legal issues?
Yeah, they're kind of overlapping legal issues. So what was going on in Carson versus Macon, and we have similar litigation in Vermont going on right now. These states have towns that are so small that they don't have public schools. And so the states basically give families tuition to take and use at any school that they want or that is the best fit for their child. And so what the Supreme Court was deciding last week, or what the argument was about, was whether the state can limit the use of that tuition in a way that those families cannot choose religious schools. What happened in Maryland and what's going on will be the next step in all these issues. And we're starting to see this happen all over the country. The question is, okay, you can take your tuition and you can go to a religious school. But if the religious school takes that tuition, do they still get to have their beliefs? Do they still get to operate according to their religious principles? Or can the state say, okay, if you're going to take this tuition, then you have to operate effectively like a public school. You have to have the government's beliefs and values. And so that's really how the two issues are related. The Carson versus Macon case is very important. And it appears that the Supreme Court is really going to help families have more access to religious schools and choices that'll be good for their kids.
Now, you got a favorable ruling from the court last Friday. What did the court say when defending the religious freedom of the school?
Yeah, the court said that Maryland violated the Constitution when it kicked Bethel out of the program because it had written its religious beliefs about marriage and human sexuality down in its handbook. The court made it clear that Maryland can't kick schools out of its programs just because these schools express religious beliefs that the state disagrees with. And I got to tell you, it's really a significant win because the state had tried to penalize Bethel with a $102,000 clawback of previously spent funds. So that means that Bethel, which is, a tiny Christian school, it's on basically a shoestring budget, it would have been responsible for 2 years worth of tuition for all those kids that participated in the program. So the court blocked that. The court said Maryland can't pursue that money. And so that's a huge relief to that community. It's great news for that school, and it's good news for the families at Bethel. And the other part that's great about it is there's nothing holding Bethel back from getting back into the program now.
Paul, we do in about 30 seconds. Are other jurisdictions going to learn this lesson finally and stop harassing religious institutions?
I hope so. If certainly looking at the landscape, I see a lot more conflict ahead of us, but I hope that other governments, whether they're local or state, will take heed of what these court decisions are saying and just treat religious schools with fairness and respect.
Paul Schmitt, Alliance Defending Freedom, thanks so much for your efforts and your time.
Thank you for having me.